myself on there. There you go. I had the main man himself, Greg. Welcome, Greg.
Hey. Hey, team.
How are we doing today?
I'm good, man. It can be that long. I mean, for me to see you, man. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it's been a little while. I think last time I saw you when you were over in London.
October.
Yeah, October.
Yeah.
God, it's near a year, isn't it? So
it's crazy how time has flown.
Time flies and enjoying yourself, as they say.
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with the introduction, Greg. So I want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, what your passion is, and yeah, a bit about yourself.
Sounds good, man. I guess sounds like we're gonna take it very lightly, very fun conversation.
It should be. That's the aim of the game, anyway.
That's it. Sounds good. Well, I'm gonna avoid like mentioning any company name, including the one I work for. So as I mentioned earlier, want to take it lightly, and then
No worries. Well, maybe a bit about your product management guru, AI influencer. Maybe a bit about your journey. Don't have to mention the companies, but just what's taken your path to where you are today.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Yeah. So, do you want to give a bit of background, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself a non-traditional guy. I'm from manufacturing, to be a little bit more direct. Studied industrial engineering, and so since I was little in Haiti, I wanted to be able to serve a large community in a very consistent manner, where whatever I serve, if it's a tennis shoes, that I would serve it in the same way, same quality. Yep. So industrial engineering made sense. So I started in manufacturing, started to rotate through different roles, whether it's focusing on quality, safety, leveraging data, so statistical process controls, etc., to do mass production. And then later on, I became a product manager. There, I started to run a little bit more data operative around pricing, optimizing pricing, working with data scientists to settle some of the optimal prices that would, in turn optimize margin for a portfolio of products. And then later on, I joined a FANG company, lucky enough to work on some AI tech, for example, that allows machines to process documents. The very things that we do as a human. We use our eyes, we interpret text, we interpret images, and then from that we make conclusions, we make decisions. I work with a group of smart people who train machines to do the same thing, but at scale. So if you think about like hundreds of millions of documents, etc. So in my spare time, I'm also always present on LinkedIn and, rallying up the community on the next tech, on the new tech, etc., especially around AI. And that's how I met you too, Chris. So
that was exactly what I was going to get to. And I think on the post I put out, I'm trying to work out how long ago it was now. It was probably about 3-4 years ago. And I remember the post as well. It was, you did a post about data types and time zones, having the time zone part of a timestamp, a date time, and how important data types are, which I think led into this whole bring back data modeling focus and getting people to remember the things we've forgotten from the past, dust them off, and see how they can add more value. Yeah, you did a post that I think at the time it was my best performing post for ages. We just reposted one of yours and it had so many views. I thought, oh, this is easy. And I realised it wasn't. If anyone out there isn't following Greg, I highly recommend. You talked about your consistency earlier from your learning for engineering. you apply the same principles to your posts. They are always informative, well structured, well researched, and I think that's quite evidence from the LinkedIn awards you've got, and how many followers you've got now as well. I'm a dwarf compared to the number of followers you've got. So yeah, always love your content. I'm really happy to have you on the show. And I think there's a few things I want to cover, and I think your commitment to the community to add information regularly, and and you've said yourself, you don't confess to know it all, but you do the research, put it out, open for discussions, and we've had some great debates based on some discussions on that. So well done with that. Something
Thank you.
Yeah, great work. And something you mentioned earlier, and it came up with discussions today about data product or data product management methodology, and we use the word data product very flippantly nowadays in the world, and I think we need to see it as a data product mindset rather than actually data products as such. My view, a product isn't a product until it has a SKU. It has a unique identifier you can put on an invoice, you can put on a stock control. So that removes many of the examples of when people talk about data products, they're not real data. I think it's components that can be used. So how do you see the two worlds, and coming from that engineering of building products that are tangible things to the world of data products?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're essentially two different things, with what I call the physical product and what I think of the digital product, whether you call it a software or essentially a data product. The underlying meaning of it is essentially the same. What I mean by that is a product, in my opinion, is maybe a tool that provides a new experience to a user. In that new experience, that tool or service solves essentially a core problem, and it solves it elegantly. And over time, it grows with the user. And over time, also, the user finds a way to adopt it, and it becomes, normal thing to do. Whether it's a gallon of milk that you purchase in the supermarket, this is a product that solves XYZ problem that you have. Whether you want to make some cake or make breakfast for your kids, it solves that problem for you. And whether it's a digital product like a software that helps you track inventory or track orders from your customers, this is another type of product. One of the things that I've seen people do that in the data product world that they're really deviating from it is, a data product should be something that really solves a core problem. Are you consuming that product to solve problem XYZ, and is that product actually generating value that helps you either monetize, or that helps you save cost, or you name it, right? But if it's something that is solely part of a business workflow, and you call it data product, maybe that's not the right term to use there. If it's only part of the workflow journey to value delivery to a customer, then it's not necessarily a data product. Hopefully that makes sense.
I think that's a good differentiator between the two. But I really do support the product mindset or the product mentality on product management. When we're building our data platform, we should start thinking of everything as components. What is actually collectively building that platform. But the thing you mentioned there, which there's a running joke at the moment, how many times I say the word value. I think they're running a scorecard now, and if anyone gets the right number of times I mention it in 1 week or on a podcast, there's a prize. Ian, if you're listening, I think
I mean value. Yeah, value. I can see why value. The term value can be like people are making fun of the word. Like, I mean, to me, there's a non-debatable term about like value, what value is. I think value is captured once a user, opens up their wallet and then pays for it.
Yeah.
And so that's how you kind of.
And there's, myself and Matt, we keep going refining our statement. I think that the current, it was before it was a positive impact, sorry, an evidential positive impact on your bottom line. When that evidence happened, was it year 1, year 5, depending on what sort of growth mode you're on. But then we're refining a little bit more, because when you set a business strategy, your company sets the CEO sets his strategy. There's some things that maybe on that strategy which you may need some technology or may need data to help with it. But if it's helping the strategy, it may not directly be impacting your bottom line. It may indirectly be. So it's hard to hit it on the head of what is value and what is business value. But I think the more we can do to articulate what it is and how to evidence it.
Correct. Yeah. When I say once a customer opens a wallet, I can also say that it can be internally created as well, right? So if it's something that's increasing or improving productivity, reducing cost, those are the things that you do to create value, right? Anything that your consumer sees as a best alternative route to solving a problem, to me, is of value. So yeah.
And again, something came up today, and I think we talk about the value, and I've been talking about business process modeling, business process management, and having business process defined. It's easy to evidence the value if you change it. So do you see a move in that sort of, from business process management moving more to business process automation, and then to robotic process automation, RPAs? Is that a world you're familiar with, and the difference?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially moving towards there. A lot of the business processes are on the verge of being transformed and move towards more automation. But we have to really understand what part is going to be automated. And essentially it's going to be the small repetitive task, the things that don't really require high level of, I don't want to say maybe intelligence or thought process or reasoning, or intuition.
Just the standard activities that are very binary.
Activities that require intuition, reasoning, long form context, in trend analysis and things like that, or interpretation. Those will be more difficult to automate. I can take an example of a law firm can automate a lot of their business processes, like whether it's generating templates for the different documents that they, produce over the course of their life cycle, business life cycle. But when it comes to treating their clients or defending their clients on a case-by-case basis, there's a mixture of things that you have to put together that takes more than just automation. You can't automate all of that workflow, right? So we have to think about what are the mundane tasks that can be taken over by AI or other form of automation, right? Deterministic automation, that because these machines will never complain that they're tired, right? They can be up all day, all night in processing some flows.
Don't need water.
Absolutely.
Don't moan at you. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's even more interesting now is that I'm looking forward to a world where the automation allows for a constant flow of communication between machine and machine, where you don't even have to intervene, interfere or anything like that, right? So this is also another source of automation that's about to continue to blow up, and yeah.
I think I'm glad you picked on the legal area. It's now we're seeing probably the biggest, a large amount of disruption on its way. And I think it's probably one of the last industries that hasn't had that full digital transformation happen yet. And from the ones we've been speaking to, it's because, you know, there wasn't, it was very much an old school sort of industry where, you know, each of the lawyers thought they did something different, you know, that they thought everyone was very different, how they worked and the partners, when realizing actually there's a lot of commonality.
Yeah.
I think the first step of that is most of them don't understand what the business processes are. And if they can't actually work out what those business processes are, you can't even see where you need to improve or to focus. Focus on where you can put some AI. Focus on where you can just do some standard Boolean business rules. You know, not everything needs AI.
Yeah, I mean that's where, you know, you see the ones who have successfully adopted technology to stay ahead of the pack. You know, understand that technology doesn't lead you know, transformation. It's actually business processes that lead transformation. You need that first. You need to figure out how this is defined in your business model. You need to define it clearly, standardize it, and then figure out what part of that end-to-end workflow or process flow can you give off to certain, you know, technology, name it AI, name it other kind of system. But if you if in your strategy you let technology lead that strategy, then, you know, that's going to be a problem in the long term. And, you know, I say this and I'm thinking about one guy like that, like one like key person present in our community, which is Ven Vashishta. He says that all the time, right? Ven will tell you, you know, the companies who let technology lead their strategy are bound to get a wake-up call one way or another, right? But if you're able to define what that process looks like, then, you know, you can easily kind of like strategize for how to kind of leverage technology to make your processes better.
I think that's spot on, and as always resonate. We're always aligned on some of these thoughts, really. And you know, the latest thinking. I mean, looking at how often CEOs, how frequently they change. You know, and it's every 18 months. You know, a CEO has a tenure of like 4 to 5 years, and you know, I started thinking about what's the impact of, you know, when that CDO leaves the company, what effect does it actually have on the value of the company or share price? And the ones I've seen, not much. when you look at CEOs leaving the company, it's a big thing, and I think that highlights that the CEOs are trying to enforce, or the data team are trying to enforce that platform onto the business, and rather than finding business initiatives, finding business objectives, projects that can actually drive the creation of the platform instead. If you start thinking, you can have that nice pretty picture of your target architecture, you know, on a nice Miro or a nice Visio diagram, have it on the wall. Just don't shove it down the business's face or down their throats. Let have a little tick box and say, okay, right, I've got all these pieces of the puzzle. What projects out there would help me get A, B, and C? Because I get A, B, and C of it, I can then get D as well, because that unlocks some other value. Yep. So I'm hoping, you know, I think there was an indication when CDOs start lasting longer in a business, I think they're actually going to be making more of an impact on the business. I think the data world will get less bad press of, you know, data projects always fail. I think it was the latest Gartner stat, I think it was, that before data projects had not the best success rate, shall we say. But it's now closing the gap between failed IT projects as well. Whereas IT projects weren't seen as risky as data, it's closing the gap. There's probably as much failures from both of them, and that's probably because IT projects are needing data in them more, so they have a dependency on them.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see things is, you know, this is just a hunch that I have. I mean, if you as a leader, you fold under the pressure of you know, unrealistic expectations, especially with regards to leveraging, the latest tech to deliver value. If you fall under that unrealistic expectation, you will be in a hurry to kind of like deploy it all over your organization and in turn fail, because you can't really solve everything. You haven't taken your time to make sure that this tech is aligned with your strategic vision or your strategic plan. You haven't made sure that the culture is ready to adopt this new technological shift. For example, if your organization is not clear about how to leverage data, whether there is enough data literacy embedded into the company's culture, you can just say, okay, let's get ready to leverage AI now, and then expect, success at first try, right? There's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations, which could have been avoided if, there were sound strategic approach to it, which is, data literacy starts first, and then, you look at your processes, you look at your people, you look at your skill set, etc. But, I'm saying this because I'm trying to paint the better picture, but in reality, there are other forces that you have to also take into account. As a leader, you have to worry about, the trends and also the market pressures from competitors, because depending on where you want to be in terms of market position, right? So you have to really juggle all of this and juggle the time too, the time available to stay relevant, right? Because a lot of people are moving fast, and it's not it's easier said than done, right? It's easier said than done. It's not.
There's a couple of things that, the people part. The technology is easy. I think it's the people, the processes that are the challenge. And a lot of the stuff we're doing now, we're trying to map things onto target operating model. So look, you need to do these things, okay? So where are we linking this technology onto that? Where are we linking the processes onto that? And by doing things in bite-sized chunks, you can help create that mature target operating model, but not forcing it upon people. It's being done iteratively. And I think the other thing that you triggered was competitive advantage, and the value of competitive advantage it's very hard to actually calculate, but it's clearly understood that having that competitive advantage can make or break businesses. And I think over the years, we've seen that the top 100 companies or top 10 companies, they've changed over time. People have come in, people have gone out, and that's because the agility and speed of those organisations. So, and I think this links into the topic of this one is like, what's a hype cycle? So, and the companies chasing or not understanding the full part of a hype cycle, or what to take with a pinch of salt, what to actually move on, is something that anyone reading your posts and things like that will probably get a bit of understanding of what the hype is all about. But maybe I can explain about seeing on the. For the audience, what would you say your definition of a hype cycle is?
Yeah, before that, I want to say hi to some of the folks in the audience, especially like Russell Willis.
First of all, let's say Russell. Hey, Russell.
Hey, how's it going, Russell? I have a couple of people here. Sunil said hello earlier. Prasanna.
Got some regulars on here as well. Say hi, Prasanna.
Yeah. I know Russell says something here that's interesting.
Yeah, let's get this one up. Let's have a look at this one. That's good. Understanding intrinsic versus extrinsic value. Yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely. And then he has another one about human computation, which is thinking. Yes. Yeah. So grossly undervalued. So if we have reliable and verifiable AI processes that can source some of the more menial elements for humans to think about. Yes, this gives humans connotation bandwidth. Absolutely. It gives you time to be more creative, gives you time to think about the bigger picture and gives you time to tap into your kind of like your intuition as well. This is something that I don't think we'll ever be able to teach intuition to any living machine or existing machine. So this is something that just you can even understand.
We're totally redundant, aren't we?
Yeah, All right, cool. So hype cycle. I guess I'm going to try to use like as much layman term as possible. I guess to me, I mean, hype cycle is a representation of how a technology is adopted or rejected over time. So pretty much maps or graphs the life cycle changes of a product, especially targeted towards technology. And this research and consulting company for IT businesses that we all know, Gartner, is the one that came with the term the hype cycle, which came out first in 1995. Started to surface a group of emerging technologies that were thought of to be the transformative avenues of the future. And over time, when you look at all of these hype cycles, you're starting to see the ones that failed at first try to today still being used 20-something years later. What's interesting about the hype cycle is, some technologies, the way Gartner has made it very interesting is that they showcased how when a technology is first announced, it creates a buzz in the community that this is the next thing that's going to change X, Y, Z. And then this, call it some sort of like trigger, and then a technology trigger. Then you have kind of like a peak of enlightenment where everybody is being overly optimistic that this will change everything. And then, down that curve, and if you follow this graph, right, of, how good you feel about this technology is your y-axis, and then the x-axis is time. As time goes by, the trigger launches this product up to the community, and the community gets super excited about it, super optimistic that this will work. And then once, the big challenges emerge because you're trying to adopt this technology, you fall down into a valley of despair, right? Trough of disillusionment. I say it in French because the English word is heavy for me. And then after that, you're kind of like starting to get a grip of how things are, and you're starting to take baby steps and recalibrate yourself, re-strategize until you find more of an equilibrium. And once you reach that equilibrium, you find ways to slowly improve bits and pieces of that technology over time, where that technology, if it survives all the way through that life cycle, it either lives on or gets deprecated and replaced by something better, more efficient, etc., under a different name or a different underlying technology. So I know that was long-winded, but well,
I'm glad that I couldn't have given that much detail. So that's better than I could have done anyway. So well done. And I reckon I know who this is. I think this is JT, but he's come up with LinkedIn News. He's got a good question here. Would you agree that marketing hype around new products impacting maturity curve of software and business processes? So I think so, yes.
So trying to read the question again, trying to understand the question. The marketing hype around new products is impacting maturity curve of software and business processes. I mean, I think every single one of single products, when it triggers, when it launches, it relies on that marketing hype.
Yeah.
That's what we call the buzz. And it has evolved over time, right? I think every single technology that you know of today that's like sitting in the background that you don't even think about has gone through that in some sort of like marketing buzz, right? Even the light in your house, right? The fact that your home is powered by electricity. Back in the days, right? You had a few people who had access to testing this technology until it was viable enough to present it to a few homes. Well, they had to have some sort of avenue to kind of like, they had to do shows, right? Like very isolated shows, inviting people in to take a look at it. Back then, you know, only a few with money, with presence could just go into these rooms to see, you know, the first bulb illuminate, right? Until, you know, it became more of a, okay, we can electrify the street, the roads, right? Where people start to get excited with the idea, but also you had people were kind of afraid that electricity will, you know, zap your head, or, you know, like they were afraid of it, right? So you had some sort of marketing hype, but that's not all, right? It can propel you a little bit faster, but you know, over time, you know, it's only adoption and technology readiness that will tell whether something will die out soon or later, right? So.
Yeah, the question was from Dave Hill. I think because StreamYard doesn't, if you don't give it permissions, it doesn't say who it is. So I was guessing who it was. I got the wrong person anyway. So it was Dave Hill, that question. So I think, yeah, so something was going back slightly. We were talking about where we get how we can take, using the benefits of these new technologies that have come out. Everyone's sort of scared it's going to take their jobs away, or it's going to, you know, replace humans. And I mean, I'm not that old, but I mean, I heard the stories of the punch cards. You know, when people used to do programming in the past, and they used to put the punch cards in, you know, the person that organised and did, you know, organised all those punch cards, they would end up being able to do something better. And I think that's where we should embrace AI and not think, don't think it's going to change. It's going to replace every single aspect we do. It should be there to make us work quicker and more efficiently, which it's quite ironic at the moment. Well, so ChatGPT, I think it's losing 700 grand a day. So at the moment, you know, it's a loss leader, and you know, it's got many lawsuits against it because it's been traded on data that wasn't there, and that way everyone always picks on the first out there. So yeah, it's, you know, there is, people are still trying to find out where it adds value and how it can add value. But don't, I think they're taking the thing out of the hype cycle. Don't assume it's going to do everything that people say it's going to. You know, find where, my old architecture days of having patterns. You know, it's like, this is in this pattern for this scenario, this is the best technology to use, or the best approach, best framework. Yeah, I think we shouldn't go for that default position of generative AIs can be used for everything.
Yeah,
something is just a standard business rules engine that has Boolean logic in it is sufficient, because the rules are defined. I think you only need to go down that other route of using generative AI where older traditional methods no longer worked.
Yeah,
weren't as good. So I think now we define that hype cycle, and I think we're all familiar with the big data bubble, you know, and the hype that gave us. But probably we can look back. What do you think? What do you think the big data bubble gave us to help us where we are, and was it worth all the hype that we got?
Say that again.
So the big data bubble, so the Hadoop era. How much of the hype, or the things it would solve, to reality of what it actually did? What good things did you see that came out of the Hadoop period?
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting, in my opinion, you know, stories about like new technology that went through some sort of like hype cycle that I can say didn't necessarily come and go through the hype cycle or disappeared entirely, but fired up a series of new technologies that help people do things better. And this is where, you know, the hype cycle gets interesting, where you really have to take it, I don't want to say grain of salt, but you have to not only use that as your only element to analyze, overall trends. You also have to append it with different things, different trends that are going on out there. I must give a shout out to a very well-known FANG company that we know of today, really excel in the world of search. If you know what I'm talking about, that always puts out papers that make people think differently, right? So their paper on file system really inspired, and especially around computing, inspired the creator of Hadoop to create the Hadoop distributed file system. So really making a clear distinction on high volume storage and high volume computation. And, it was really the next big thing, because people or systems were generating, post the .com era. A lot of people were like hurrying up to go online, and, a lot of these systems were getting better at generating data, and you have to store that data. You have to run computation on that data. You have to, at scale, perform 1 + 1, 1 divided by 5,000 divided by 4 computation at high speed, and you really Hadoop. I think when it came, it focused on the aspect of where businesses were still managing their clusters, which was still an expensive way to go. But at the same time, that's why I'm saying, if Hadoop came into the hype cycle, and I'm saying this because all of this was while I was in college, so I wasn't really paying attention to everything. But now in hindsight, when I'm looking back, I'm saying during that same time, so Hadoop came around 2005 or so, 2006. And then at the same time, you have this trend around like people trying to go to the cloud, this cloud thing, cloud computing starting to grow, right? And then Hadoop became the buzz while people were at the same time moving to the cloud. So I think where Hadoop missed the boat is to kind of like quickly evolve for a solution in the cloud fast enough. But it's not a sad story, because a lot of other companies or other research institutes started to develop better technologies that could do things better than Hadoop, right? So Facebook came up with Cassandra and other things. The buzz around open source started to be a little bit bigger, right? So with the open source and Hadoop trying to gain, speed in the big data, open source opened up a new level of collaboration in the community, where people took this big idea that was the big data processing through Hadoop and say, let's, proactively, improve the process, right? So now you have so many big technologies, fast forward to now, that, allow you to store files at scale over the distributed network, compute at scale over distributed, nodes or server nodes that, I think, in my opinion, Hadoop is a success story because it fired up multiple different things, but because also there were other trends that were happening in parallel, like cloud computers and open source that allowed this technology to evolve over time into what it is today, where, now we can talk about stream processing, real-time processing, batch processing, modern data stack. A lot of people don't like this term, but, this is like, it opened the door to so many things, right? So I can't call it a sad story or.
No, I totally. I mean, I do joke about it a little bit, but there's lots of. I mean, it brought data to the masses, and I did a joke the other day about the evolution of the modern or mean data streets, modern data stacks that would play on, and I think it originally was I think it was the enterprise data stack originally, which was the expensive data stack. It was reserved for the people with large budgets, the large corporations. It wasn't for Joe Bloggs. It wasn't just for smaller companies. So
yep, MapReduce, right? MapReduce wasn't accessible to everyone. So you had to pay someone who knew how to build those MapReduce jobs.
True.
Right. So,
but I think what it meant was the technology, or the entry level, became a lot cheaper. Before, you'd have to go and buy Informatica, Oracle. They were enterprise software, enterprise prices, and and you couldn't even start until you bought all pieces of the puzzle. Whereas, I think I joked around. I call it the awkward data streets, the Apache data streets. It was complex. It was hard to get up and running, and you had to know how the queries going to be accessed. One thing I didn't like so much about it was that whole schema and read approach of, don't worry about data modeling, we'll sort it out later, which it created a generation of it takes a generation of people forgot or didn't know about data modeling or optimize code for your SQL. So
we've seen that so many times, right? So you put a bunch of supplies in a room, and then you tell each leader to do whatever they want with it, right? So now you have generals who forget about the principles of really optimizing their resources, right? And then they do whatever they want, and then next thing you know, you have some sort of chaos. They forget about data modeling, the best practices, and things like that. Like it's funny how like the trends of open source has opened up so many things, right? So you have Apache Hive that came in as a solution to improve the whole MapReduce thing, right? Like kind of, and then it took like very little time to kind of like surface the limitation of Hive to come up with the next generation of improvements, right? To make things optimal. And overall, the trends that I'm seeing through time for any kind of technology these days, especially in the time of like cloud computing and things like that. So is that, there's a small group of people, whether it's coming from academia or from the industry or other kind of research nodes, is that they apply brute force. Brute force meaning either they have enough money to kind of like brute force their computation power into this technology to build a POC, or a kind of like brute force of brains on this massive, transformative technology. And then, once you have a couple people who really believe in this, they kind of like go through massive adoption, right? So a lot of people starting to adopt it. And then once you have a lot of people adopt it, and then you have now optimization, right? So you walk back and say, how do we make the processes a little bit better? You mentioned OpenAI, ChatGPT, to me is one of them. Brute force to create that POC, brute force to have mass adoption. And then now you walk back to say, okay, how do we make it more, optimized so we can make money with it maybe? And that's a strategy that a lot of companies have adopted, really. Right. Yeah. So
it's a advantage, by throwing money at the problem and hope it wins. I mean, Uber is a great example. 32 billion of investment before it made a first profit of 300 million. So that's a lot of that's a big runway. There's a big runway of brute forcing an idea. And I think someone I don't the modern data stack. I've had my beef with it, the name in the past, and I joke around the mean data streams are partly due to the modern data stack. What is next? And I don't like the term the postmodern data stack, because it's what would you go off at? It's post. I mean, at the moment, I'm trying to go with the BDS, the business data stack, or the brilliant data streets. So I think the stack needs to be linked to the business requirements now, and I think maybe sticking the word business in it may people start thinking that modern way of thinking is the business way of thinking. So
so I have never done any research in terms of like who came up with the term modern data stack. I mean, it should be something that moves with the current business requirements, to your point, right? So being able to define what those business requirements are, and through this business requirement, how is data generated? One, data is generated. If data is generated, how is it collected? How is it stored? How is it transformed? How is it transferred? And then how do we use all of that to make decisions, etc.? Or how do we use it to make recommendations, give prescriptions, and take actions and things like that? And then the tools that allows you to perform all of these, it really doesn't matter, because these tools, they typically come and go. Call it the modern data stack. To me, is being able to map business requirements to a technology that captures the data that supports these business requirements.
Exactly. And before we go on to the question down here, I think I joked around last time that people say the modern data stack were dead, and the reason why they're quoting is because it didn't have data on it, didn't have this. And again, it's not the modern data stack focus. And I started thinking it should be called Modern Data Stack 2022, 2023. Use the Microsoft versioning approach, because you need to keep it modern. But back to hype cycles, unfortunately, you need to have a new name to go and get the budget to go and get stuff, because the last project went bad and they remember the name. So you have to keep coming up with new names to think you're moving forward. Otherwise, people are thinking, "Oh, that's so yesterday, modern data stack. You should be doing postmodern or whatever it is."
Yeah, it's funny about the hype cycle, right? How people tend to forget. Like we tend to remember only the technologies that survived. Yeah. We tend to forget the bad predictions that we made in the past. I mean, the hype cycle shouldn't be the only thing to look at. As I mentioned earlier, there are some technologies that didn't really necessarily make the hype cycle graph from Gartner, for example. Like when you think about the term of NoSQL, probably didn't make it there, but today you still talk about it. It's still being used as a key element to store unstructured data, right? And query unstructured data. There are some that have been in the hype cycle for so many years, right? And still trying to figure out, we still think there's a future for it, right? Quantum computing is one of them. There are some that came, they went through the hype, and then they went through some sort of winter, right? AI is one, right? Went through this winter in the 1980s, right? And then now we're starting to talk about it again, right? There are some who came into the hype cycle and didn't see the light of day for too long. And then, back in 1995, you have, it was all about intelligent agents. Yeah. Everybody remember this little tool called Clippy from Microsoft. So this little bot that wasn't necessarily accurate in its responses, didn't see much time of the day, right? So now it's all about chatbots that are powered by LLMs, and it's coming back again in a different form, but because of other things that are happening in the industry that allows these things to happen. So it's quite interesting to see how technologies move throughout society.
Exactly. So I like the FOMO term at the moment, and I think it can be it can be a useful thing. That fear of missing out. In fact, we had Scott Taylor on the other day on one of the shows, and your data, talk about your data department, promoting itself to maybe the marketing team, and then for doing such a great job that now the marketing team talk about it and the other department's got FOMO because I want some of that data project as well. So I think where we need to be careful with that FOMO is ring fence. So yes, you want to try and adopt something to say you're doing it, and we've seen in the past some people put an AI word in their company name, the price of value of the company goes up. All they've done is just change the name to have AI in it. So sometimes you need to follow that and to make sure that you are seen to be better than your competitors, but make sure you don't go full in. Look to go and use some new technology in a very small ring fence use case. Don't go and bet on it. Don't go all in, all your chips in, and go right. Here we go. because you'll be the next CDO that we're leaving again in 12 months to go to your next place. So yeah,
baby steps are key, right? I mean, it's no wonder like FOMO has either made some and killed some of these companies out there, right?
Yeah.
So the key is to be strategic with it and don't burn all your fuel, right? As we know, like, there are some people who talk about how the US orchestrated the whole travel to the moon as a means to use up Russian resources. So, I mean, this is probably FOMO that got to them, and then they started to really try to get on the race to the moon, and then they kind of imploded internally. Their economy kind of imploded internally because they're channeling so much resources towards that race to the moon. So
we've got a big bubble up here, and this was someone's asked what ChatGPT the next what's going to come off the modern data stack. I don't like any of these, so I'm going to stick with the business data stack. But yeah, there's a few suggestions there. Anyway.
Let's see, advanced data stack next gen. Oh my goodness, intelligent ones.
Next gen, yeah. We'll see.
Holistic infrastructure. Oh well. At the end of the day, I think consumer expectations will define what the data stack needs to be.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
so it's what is your expectation, right? So especially that's why it's really hard to hone in on what real time really means, right? So are you talking about live feed, like sub millisecond feeds, or is it like every 5 minutes you give me the latest? I mean, near real time. So it's kind of like, and all of that means.
I mean, I did a post about this not that long ago about I think it said data has an erosion or erosion time. It has a value time, and understanding how your data is used can actually see whether the value of it will erode over time. So it's better to get it sooner rather than later. The two examples I give is you're a clothing retailer. There's a big fad for skinny jeans or something like the latest thing, and you're going to get a volume discount if you can actually get order a certain amount extra by a certain day. But if you don't have your accurate stock information or your forecast information till you've missed that deadline, all of that information you got is not worth today. If you had it on the day of the stock, you had to order the stock, it would have been worth a lot more. The day after, it doesn't matter now, I've already ordered the stock. So understanding how your data is used and when it makes sense to have it real time or more frequent. Because the other example extreme is your accounts payable. They may only chase the money up at the end of the month. You just need to make sure it's up to date, maybe weekly or daily or something like that, but it doesn't need to be intraday. So yes, understanding how the data can be used to work out how frequently do you need real time? Do you need near real time? Yeah,
absolutely.
And also,
I mean, if you need that data to take immediate actions, then you may say, hey, I need to build a system that helps me take action every time data shows up, by the minute, by the hour, by the day, etc. But the longer data waits, once you go back to look at that data, then you're performing a different type of analysis or transformation to that data, right? For a different purpose, right? You're analyzing trends, you're like deep diving the why of that data, right? So maybe it's a little bit too late for some of the use cases that may fall under your realm, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's one of the other things that organizations don't know is how they're using that data or what data is being used, and then if you work out what KPIs, what decisions are being made, what inputs what's needed for that, you can work out exactly what data you actually need to collect and made available, because the collect it all, stick it somewhere, your lake house or whatever, work out how you need it later. it's going to become a very expensive overhead, and not every company needs that. You know, in the whole data management regulation, there's certain you can't even keep data for certain times. So and then I've seen in governance departments lock things down so much you can't even get access to data that you don't even know if you need yet. So we're creating too much internal friction, and that's because we've created a bit of a beast sometimes in some organizations.
Absolutely.
So we're coming up to time, and I think we're in a great discussion. I think the last thing on there is well, I've got two. Actually, we've got two more things before this. What is the next big thing was one of the things, and so is it AI or is it something different?
You say is it still AI? I mean,
is it still, or is it going to be generative AI, or is there something else that is it going to be edge computing? Is it going to be Web3? What's going to be the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you know, I think generative AI is still at its infancy, right? So I think the next big thing is kind of like you're going to continue to hear more mass use case adoption, right? So maybe in the robotics section, which is like a different beast on its own because of so many system integration that you need there. The idea of a truly physical personal assistant, maybe, you know, the next big thing, right? Who knows? Maybe quantum computing is the next big thing, right? But, you know, I think, you know, definitely we have all of the ingredients to say that Gen AI will transform how we will do business and how we will communicate with the rest of the world and how we as humans will communicate with machines in a more accessible manner. But at the end of the day, we should move away from predicting the future because we haven't been too good at this. You know, it's always
GPT. If we'd had ChatGPT to ask what's going to happen in the future, we wouldn't be that now. So that's problem solved now, Greg.
Yeah, I know, right? So it's like,
I'm not sure. Maybe I've been hyped up by it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we should definitely move towards defining our future, like as we go, right? So when we put our resources, energy onto something interesting, then let's let that open up the future for us versus determining or predicting, trying to predict, hey, 10 years down the line, this is how I want it to be, right? But it's really hard to know. One thing I know is that everybody should agree or should look into this. You don't have to agree with me, but there's a fair consensus out there, whether you like the technology or not, that Gen AI is setting up to be some sort of like fundamental technology that will enable different or new experiences on top of it. Just like the transportation industry enabled things, the internet enabled new experiences.
Exactly.
Gen AI also is that foundational layer that will enable
it's
another. Yes, it's a layer that enables new sets of technologies. Now you can say maybe 10 years down the line, what are going to be the next Facebook of the world? What does that look like? You can extrapolate on that, but you know, just know that there will be another way of looking at things or of interacting with computers and because of that underlying technology. So
I think that's a really good way of explaining it. I think you can go down years at the electricity, then after that computing, then after
electricity, exactly. What are the foundational layers, and then how do you build on top of it?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's yeah. Well, Ian's asked a question: if you had the money to invest, where would it be? You can take that one offline because that would be insider trading, maybe. So we're not allowed to do that. But I had one more thing. I think it's how to keep ahead in a fast-paced environment. I'm just going to say this: follow you, Greg. Right, and that's
not only follow me, but also read. Right, read about different things. Right. There are so many resources out there, but also don't read in isolation. So, for example, you're hearing that AI is the next big thing, but what else is happening? What else is enabling AI, right? So maybe quantum business first new generation data stack. Oh my goodness, that's a handful.
We'll close on that one. The modern data stack's now been called the quantum business first new generation data stack.
That is funny. Ian, so great to see you. So I'll answer you that question offline because you and I are connected. So thanks for that question. But yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, what was that? Your question was around like how to keep up. So also look at like what is enabling all of this computational power, right? So we are definitely at an inflection point where I mean I'm channeling this interesting article. I mean, you should all read it. And from Andreessen Horowitz writers who talked about this inflection point where we're starting to talk about knowledge computation, right? And these knowledge computation are powered by large language models. And what powers that in the back end at the infrastructure level, you have customized chips. Right. So, look into the trends in terms of like material sciences. What are the new technologies they're coming up with? What are the breakthroughs they're going with in terms of finding better materials that allow for more stable computation, more efficient computation? Right. So look at those things as well. Right. So don't read in isolation and look at the big picture.
The paper you're talking about, it was basically removing any heat generated from the cabling or something. They can make it. Yeah.
Look into those things, right? I mean, if you think about this, right, what the AI chip looks like now, or what they will represent, something like the last news about NVIDIA helping. What is that company who raised quite a bit who took like $2 billion in equity, debt equity, and then NVIDIA helped with that. So NVIDIA actually used its AI chips as collateral to help this company get debt equity. I can't remember the name. I'll give it to you later. But there's this AI company that I think will evolve in the AI chip realm. And for a company like NVIDIA to use AI chips as collateral, that tells you how valuable these assets are, right? So follow these trends to understand, where are we going in the future? Are we at a point of no return with this technology? I think yes.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'm just going to advertise next week. We've got Veronica Durgin, who will be talking about data modeling and data architecture and all great stuff like that. So tune in next week. She's a very knowledgeable lady, so it'll be a good one. Greg, thank you. It's been great to speak to you again. I'll hope to catch up.
Always a pleasure.
USA or next time we're in the UK, or if you do hit us up, we'll make sure we can go out for another dinner or something. Anyway,
absolutely, always delightful to catch up with you.
Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure. We could have carried on. I mean, we had to rush the last 2 minutes, so it was a fluid chat as always. So thank you everyone for listening, and until next time. Speak all again. Thank you.